When I was a kid in the 1970s, it seemed like every classroom had a traditional analog clock mounted to the front wall. Once teachers taught us how to read those clocks, paying attention in class got a lot harder. The last 30 minutes of the day were the worst. I remember watching that second hand. Come on, baby. Come on, second hand. Oh, you got this. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I have said prayers begging clocks to speed up so that I can leap forth from my desk to the free world of bicycles and baseball cards and all cool things on the other side of the schoolhouse doors. Then in other classrooms, clocks were irrelevant because the teacher in front of us held us so captivated that we were busy. We were busy learning. I'm a professor of special education. I spend a lot of time wondering what it is that makes the best teachers great. Some will say, you've either got it or you don't. Others will say, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. But in these phrases, what constitutes the it? What is the it? The idea I'd like to share with you today is that this unspoken, elusive it, that which makes the best teachers magical, may have little to do with the delivery of instruction and everything to do with the teacher's ability to build authentic, meaningful relationships and contacts with students. Teaching is a universal thing. We're all teachers whether we plan on being teachers or not. We influence everybody in our lives and they influence us in return. Relationships are reciprocal. Relationships are interdependent. Think about teachers you've had in your own lives. Which ones have inspired you? And which ones left you rolling your eyes, looking up at the clock and waiting for the bell to ring? What is it that makes teachers like Robin Williams' characters in Good Will Hunting, in Dead Poet Society, so absolutely magnificent? In 1978, my sixth grade teacher at Palos West Elementary School in Palos Park, Illinois, was a tall, elegant lady named Leanne Gravel. Mrs. Gravel was a gray-haired widow who would wear long, flowing dresses with flowered prints that she had accumulated from her various world travels. She never walked anywhere. She just kind of floated from place to place. Very elegant lady. Mrs. Gravel was passionate about four things: her beloved adopted land of Hawaii, sharing great books with other people, the art of the practice of yoga, and us, her students. No, me. I felt like every lesson she ever delivered was intended solely for me. I'm sure other students felt the same way. But see, when she taught, her eyes would sparkle. That would cause mine to do the same. My classmates too. Before you knew it, everybody was sparkling and we were hooked. When she spoke about Hawaii, she transported us to this magical land of fiery volcanoes and native peoples and exotic beauty. She would even bring in films that she had taken herself during her various trips to the islands, on those rare days when the school's film projector would be wheeled into the classroom. Through those films and through her stories, she brought this enchanted land to life. But the best part of being in Mrs. Gravel's class had to do with Fridays, and I don't mean anything to do with the weekends. On Fridays, right before lunch, she would read to us from the Tarzan series of books, which she insisted was properly pronounced Tarzan. And as the words would spill forth from her lips, we would hang on to every single one of them. We couldn't get enough. We didn't want it to end. Please, just one more chapter. Imagine kids so enthralled, too immersed in learning to bother with something as trivial as lunch. Think about a teacher in your own life. Walk with me. Let's try to break this down. First of all, the magic elusive it, whatever it is qualitative in nature. It's not quantitative. As if one could take the beauty of the human experience of learning and assign it a number. A number. The best teachers are first learners themselves, who just want to share stuff that they find cool with other people. Their excitement about the subject then becomes infectious. The best teachers share stories from their own lives. Stories make things relatable. They discuss their successes and their failures. And this vulnerability humanizes them in the eyes of their students. The best teachers know how to read a room. They can tell when the class is hooked, and they can tell when a class is spent. When kids' eyes are glazed over, the best teachers know to shift gears or just give it a rest. The best teachers take time to cultivate relationships with every single kid in their classroom. They build bridge after bridge after bridge to every single kid sitting in front of them. Why? Because they took the time to learn the backgrounds, the cultures, and the family dynamics of every kid sitting in front of them. This allows them to then tailor instruction so that every kid gets individualized instruction that suits their needs. Finally, the best teachers believe to their core that there is a way to reach every student. They don't give up. If behavior is an issue, they find a way to de-escalate the situation, that rather than ramp it up and pour gasoline on the fire. We've seen this. They never look at any child, no matter how hardened, as a burden. Children aren't burdens. Children are human beings needing to be loved and guided and nurtured. They also look for ways to humanize students rather than dehumanize them. Are we seeing a pattern here? Great teaching isn't about what you teach. It's about who you are. It's about the relationships you build. It's about the bridges you create. If this is the case, might we need to re-examine our approach to teacher education programs? These are honest, hard questions. Are we truly giving student teachers the skills they need to build these authentic, meaningful relationships? Or are we sometimes wrapped up in chasing curricula and pedagogy? How important, really, is crafting the perfect lesson plan if what really matters is building bridges? We know this. Curricula come and curricula go. But the bond between teacher and student can last a lifetime. When he was 92 years old, my colleague, mentor, and friend, Dr. John H. Lounsbury, a pioneer of the middle school movement, came to my class and spoke to all my student teachers, one of whom is here today. And he left them with these words. He said, "You are the only lesson the students will learn. What you value, how you behave, what you laugh at. We teach more by who we are than by what we teach." There's a lot of wisdom here, and sometimes this wisdom could matter more than we could possibly predict. A decade ago, I had a quiet special education major in one of my courses. Other than a brief conversation we had in passing one day when she seemed a little troubled, we really didn't interact a whole lot the whole semester. When I reached out to her a couple years later to check in on her life, she sent me this message. In the message, she said, "I'll never forget the day that you told me that I mattered. You saved my life that day." I could have never predicted that that brief moment in passing would have had any impact whatsoever. Her message stunned me. It humbled me deeply. And it scared the living daylights out of me. I am awed by the responsibility we teachers hold in our hands. The opportunity to build up or to tear down. The opportunity to inspire or to demoralize. And if what we said earlier is true about us all being teachers, guess what? I'm talking about each of you as well as me. In 2002, I caught up with Mrs. Gravel. I was a 30-something school administrator now living in Georgia. I learned she was alive and well and teaching yoga in Chicago in her 80s. That blew me away because I'd been convinced in 6th grade she was already 90. She suggested that we exchange cassette tapes with each other on which we tell each other our life stories. It would be a means for us to kind of catch each other up on what had happened in each other's lives in the time since we had been together. This was a practice we continued until 2005 when she passed away at the age of 86. And in 2019, I found my way to her beloved land of Hawaii. I was there to present a paper at an academic conference. My 6th grade teacher was on my mind as the plane touched down on the runway in Honolulu. I remember singing underneath my breath. I really did. "Mrs. Gravel, I made it. I'm finally here. Now I get to see all the cool and wonderful things you told me about." 40 years later, she was still with me. 40 years later, she was still with me. And in some ways, perhaps she had become a part of me. And maybe this is the elusive it. Maybe this is the magic we've been talking about today. She shaped a life, mine. On your way home today, think about a transformative teacher in your own life, and if something that they did when you interacted with them touched your heart or shaped your soul in some way, consider reaching out to them. There's no greater joy in a teacher's life than to hear from former students. Return the gift. Repay the favor. Complete the circle. Let it be your turn to teach them something by reminding them that they mattered, they made a difference, and that in the end, the very real evidence of the impact that they had on the world just might be you.